Canada has some of the toughest gun laws in the entire world. To get your PAL, it's not an easy task. You have to take a course, and you have to do a exam with a very highly educated and skilled instructor, and then you have to apply for like a very extensive background check by our federal police. And for those around the world, when you picture a Canadian police officer riding a horse with those funny costumes, that's our RCMP, our Mounties. So the Mounties conduct a very thorough background investigation on you, and you're run through a database pretty much like every second, every minute, every hour of the day. If you get a parking ticket, if you have any sort of misdemeanor or any crime that ever happens against you, boop, it pops up on your file like a notification for Messenger on the bottom right corner of your screen, or whatever it is, or a notification to these videos. Whatever it is, it shows up in the database, and then the RCMP and the federal government is aware of even a simple parking ticket. I'm assuming, like, I don't have inside knowledge of what that's like, but it's very extensive, and Canada is very, very on the ball for gun regulations. But they've gone a little bit overboard. And due to a once in a blue moon mass shooting that happened in Nova Scotia, the Liberal government has tried to utilize those and politicize those moments, those very, very few minute amount of moments, to do a gun buyback program here in Canada, which is infringing on so many people's rights. Canada, like, per capita, has some of the most armed citizens in the entire world. We are very big gun advocates here, is because we have such vast raw land. So a lot of the guns isn't just to have a pistol in your apartment building downtown Toronto, it's to have hunting rifles for people that are out in the boonies who want to be able to provide food for themselves. It's not really any different than having a fishing rod. I guess there's an argument to make there, but nonetheless, welcome back to another video, everybody. Today, we're obviously talking about the gun laws and the gun buyback program and some kind of good and bad news and a bit of an update on this entire situation. But before we get into it, I want to encourage you to give a like and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It really helps grow the channel, as well as I hope you consider by now turning on post notifications so you can have an extra layer of insurance protection to be able to be notified of upcoming videos. And for a limited time only, we still have just a couple stickers left for I Love Canadian Oil and Gas, for all the freedom lovers out there, for all the people that are against the climate agenda. Every sticker that's purchased is a radical leftist climate change activist tears crying. So that's a good way to look at it. Your support can be, you can find the stickers to support the channel if you want, down in the description or the pinned comment below. Without further ado, let's get into this. So this is very weird. Ottawa's extending amnesty for assault-style firearms again until October 25, until the next election, because the next election is October 20th or 10th, 2025. So this is good and bad news, and I'd love to know from the gun enthusiasts and hobbyists and activists down below in the comments, how does this make you feel? Because on one hand, it's like, oh, thank God they haven't, set it in stone that I have to return my gun this year or even next year. But at the same time, the timing of the October 2025 makes it seem like it's not good news, and that they're only pushing it to that date, not to give more people time, not to prepare themselves, but because they are so down in the polls, they're going to politicize the absolute hell out of this in hopes that there is some sort of crazy thing that happens here in Canada, like crime-wise, right before then, whether it's staged or whether it's legit. And you just know the Liberals are going to jump on that and be like, this is why we need to ban assault-style weapons. This is why we need to do that. So the timing of it seems like there is a massive ulterior motive, and that's why I say there's good and bad news, because the good news is it's extended. The bad news is it seems like it's all for the wrong reasons. But then again, I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments, and maybe I can be educated on it. But the federal government says it will extend by 2 years an amnesty of order of guns it prohibited in the wake of the deadly 2020 Nova Scotia shooting rampage. Public Safety Canada quietly updated its website about the yet-to-be-developed firearms buyback program on Wednesday, saying the amnesty period was set to expire at the end of the month and will remain in place until October 30th, 2025. The amnesty applies to those who own one or more And then 1,500 models of guns that Ottawa announced it was banning, saying assault-style firearms, such as the AR-15, have no place in communities. And the AR-15 doesn't have a 30-round mag. It overheats, and if you put about 60 to 100 bullets down the barrel of an AR-15, it's not an effective assault-style weapon. It's not a military weapon. The barrel would overheat, and it would even melt. So you can't use it in the traditional sense of military style, which is why they've changed their verbiage from military style to just assault style weapons. Again, everyone who's ever shot a gun, owns a gun, knows an AR-15 is not an assault style or military style weapon. So very bizarre. Nonetheless, I have some videos pulled up from our favorite conservative politician of the female gender, one of the two genders, Raquel Dancho. She is a total badass, extremely base, and a very big gun activist for the right reasons and stands up for Canadians' rights to own firearms. Let's take a look at what she has to say here.
Definition, right? It's really not new. It's just almost like lipstick on a pig, for lack of a better word. So I'll outline the old definition. I'll read it to you now, Madam Speaker. It said, a firearm that is a rifle or shotgun that is capable of discharging centerfire ammunition in a semi-automatic manner and that is designed to accept a detachable cartridge magazine with a capacity greater than 5 cartridges of the type for which the firearm was originally designed. That was the original definition. We called G4. It was G4, so folks have heard G4. That was G4, along with a number of other things from the May 2020 OIC, which people are very familiar with. And then it was also table dropped, or it was not table dropped, it was provided in very short order in a very sneaky, underhanded way with G46, which folks will remember was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages long and looked to ban an additional almost 500 long guns. That's where the infamous and very, very popular for hunting, particularly the Indigenous community, SKS was found. And again, this list was massive. It was about, I don't know, I can't show you because I can't use props, but it was about 3 inches thick. So they dropped that in a very sneaky and underhanded way along with this definition. So again, months went by, there was a massive uproar, hundreds of thousands of phone calls and letters and social media posts from the firearm community across Canada. And the Liberals, for once, I've never seen this before, relented and withdrew G46 and G4. Wow, that was actually quite shocking. I've never seen them back down on anything before. So that was round 1, as we found out. Round 2, here we are, yet again, almost no change. And actually, I would argue it's worse now, and I'll tell you why. So this is the new definition. I just read the old one. It says a firearm that is not a handgun and that discharges centerfire ammunition, mentioned before, in a semi-automatic manner, mentioned before, and was originally designed with a detachable magazine with a capacity of 6 cartridges or more. And so there was a bit of weasel word change there, but very, very subtle, Madam Speaker. And so the reason they mention that a firearm that is not a handgun, it's interesting, more weaselly maneuvering here. The French translation for what they originally had was fusil de chasse, which means hunting rifle. That was the direct French translation of what they were trying to ban late last year. But of course, there's tens of thousands of hunters, sport shooters, and farmers in rural Quebec. I think the Bloc forgets this, but there are. And they were in an uproar, obviously. So now the government has worked this out so that, at least it doesn't say hunting rifle in French. But that is the translation of what they were trying to ban just in November. Let's just be clear about that. They've just switched around the words a little bit, Madam Speaker. Very interesting. They are bringing forward a Firearms Advisory Committee. And they keep referring to the Firearms Advisory Committee. When asked about the SKS, for example, that doesn't technically fall under this definition, but was on the original list, they've as much as told us that the Firearms Advisory Committee will look to ban that. The minister has said that. The parliamentary secretary has referred to that immediately when asked about the SKS. The Firearms Advisory Committee will be looking at that. So what is this, the Firearms Advisory Committee? Well, they're saying it's a nonpartisan group of experts they're putting together. We've heard that before. They've had similar advisory committees for firearms, and they've had some of the biggest anti-gun groups in the country on that so-called advisory committee that they've had before in a previous iteration. So I don't trust for 1 minute that there's going to be advocates for lawful firearm ownership for hunters, sport shooters, farmers, and Indigenous Canadians in this regard, from this perspective, on that committee. Not for 1 minute, Madam Speaker, do I trust that that's going to be the case. And they keep referring to that committee whenever we ask about the SKS. So let's talk about
total badass. And it's actually nice to see that there's at least one politician in Canada who knows a thing or two about guns. When Marco Mendicino, so long, farewell. When Marco Mendicino was in the House, he was a horrible front lead on anything about guns. Of course, not just because he put in place all of these gun buyback programs. He is, after all, the one who initiated this, from my understanding. But he also doesn't know anything about guns. He's never shot a gun. He doesn't know the difference about different types of guns. He thinks guns bad, shoot bullets bad. The people are good. The guns themselves are bad. And so it's very bizarre that you have somebody who's making rules for an entire country of 40 million plus people, right? And that affects how a lot of smaller communities, albeit, but still how a lot of people and smaller communities are affected for hunting and gathering. I mean, there's so many people in Canada that rely on, moose meat, deer meat, bear, I don't know, right? So many people, partridge, right? They go out and they hunt for their food. They provide for their families and their communities. We're not talking about 10 million people do that, but there are a lot of people who do that. And it's so bizarre that the Liberal government just seems to not care about the small fringe minority, I suppose. Anyways, I have another video of Raquel pulled up here, who's just completely crapping on the buyback program. $6 billion for a buyback program.
I'll remind the House that the Liberals are bringing forward phase 2 of their confiscation regime of private property from law-abiding citizens. They call it the buyback. They never owned them in the first place, so I'm not sure how they're buying them back. But anyway, they're going to be spending billions of dollars on that. The Fraser Institute estimates that before the latest round of long gun bans that are coming forward with this so-called new definition and the hidden list that's being passed over sneakily to the Firearms Advisory Committee, that adds hundreds, they will add hundreds of firearms to the banned list. That was before that. The Fraser Institute estimated the original May 2020 OIC, in essence, will be $6 billion. $6 billion. Do you want to know how much good could be done to fight violent crime and gun crime from criminals and gangsters with $6 billion? You could equip every port of entry with scanning technology. You could hire so many more police. You can invest in heavily, and we're talking billions, heavily in youth diversion programs. Because we have seen that in addition to the responsible gun ownership measures that I've mentioned that have been in Canada for a number of years that Conservatives firmly support, other measures that are important are getting youth when they're just getting led down the path of crime. If you can get a 12-year-old when he's romanced by the gang to steal his first car, if you could just catch him then and extend a hand and show him a better way and speak to him in a way that's relatable, have members of his community have the resources to support him, that young man could have a real life, a family, a job, be a responsible contributing member to his community. That's when you got to catch them. And if we can just take all the money they're going to be wasting, which will do nothing, right in the data, it says that will do nothing to prevent violent crime and gun violence, we could do a lot of good. Yet they're not open to that conversation, Madam Speaker. They don't want to talk about that. They're too busy fear-mongering.
Too busy fear-mongering. That's kind of the mentality of the Liberal government. Anyone who knows anything about guns knows that what the Liberals have been spewing, this rhetoric of military assault style weapons, and how guns bad, people good, or bail reform, all these things combined, this massive shit show that they've created is pretty much why the state of Canada is in what it's in right now. And just let's take a moment to just acknowledge what's happening in Israel right now and how the Israeli government has basically opened up their arsenals and provided guns for the public. And somehow us here in the Western world think that that's impossible to ever have. No one would ever attack either through internal uprising or crossing into our borders. No one would ever attack our Western nation, and we are fine. And there's no need for us to be armed. It's just so ridiculous. And not even just from that perpetual living in fear of some sort of invasion happening, look up in the sky and seeing paratroopers, which seems to be a real thing that's happened in Israel, right? Never mind that. Just from the hunting aspect, just from the sheer ability of being able to be human, living in a Western society, to be able to have your own rifles in your house, whether you like to go to the range once a weekend, a couple times a month, a few times a year and shoot for fun, or whether you use your guns, right, to go and hunt, whatever it is. No, the Canadian government doesn't want you to do that. They don't want you to own gas-powered vehicles. They want to disarm you. They want to indoctrinate your kids. Like, it's just, we're living in weird times, folks. We're living in very, very weird times. I've got one more video pulled up by our girl Raquel Dancho. Let's take a look here.
I mentioned this earlier, and I got a bit emotional about it, but the rhetoric that the turn that the Minister of Public Safety has taken with his rhetoric against me and members of my party is very concerning. You know, we can have a professional debate. We can have this factual discussion. We can have our viewpoints. They don't want anyone to own firearms, no matter how vetted they are. We believe in protecting the culture and heritage of Canadians. We can have that robust debate. We've been having it for decades. But to take the turn that he has, to go so dirty on this, when I have done my best, and as have members of our party, to ensure that this is a professional conversation, that we are leading and protecting people that are being kicked by this government and used as political wedge on a daily basis, particularly in rural Canada, it's very upsetting. And I mean that very honestly. And I called him out on it today, and he did not apologize for his disgusting remarks. I found that very disappointing. Why can we not have a civilized conversation based on facts when it comes to this? I don't know. Oh, maybe because they're not doing so well in the polls. We're doing pretty good. Maybe they want an election soon, and this is a real winner for them, or has been in the past. But now that we're speaking and we're building on the work of all the Conservative members, and we're talking about the people that this really impacts, it's resonating with people. Nobody believes in the suburbs. Nobody believes in Winnipeg. I represent an urban riding. No one believes that Grandpa Joe and his hunting rifle are responsible for the gangsters in Toronto that are 3D printing guns, smuggling guns, that are wreaking havoc, that are murdering innocent people, murdering police officers. No one believes that going after hunters is going to solve that, and yet we're seeing billions of dollars, countless of resources, misinformation, disinformation, disgusting rhetoric from this public safety minister and others on these Liberal benches. And it doesn't make any sense. There's no science or data to back it up whatsoever, Madam Speaker. So I can go on for quite some time, but of course I've been silenced by the Liberal NDP coalition. So in my remaining moments, I will move an amendment to the motion, Madam Speaker.
Damn, Raquel is on point, and it really starts to just boil my blood when she's mentioning the mis and disinformation of the Liberal NDP coalition, and the fact that they don't care about facts. They're politicizing things that should not be politicized in order to try and sway the public, and it's hurting people. We all know politics is a game, and it's a game of trying to persuade the public, the general population, that what you're doing is in their best interest. But the way that the Liberals do it is they're trying to convince you that it's in our best interest, what they're doing, but it's hurting millions of people, and it's not our best interest, because Grandpa Joe, as Raquel said, who has his hunting rifle in small town Saskatchewan or small town Alberta or wherever, he's not the one responsible, nor anyone like him responsible for any of the gun crimes happening in Canada. It's criminals, and you can put restrictions on guns on law-abiding citizens all you want. That's not going to stop criminals from committing illegal crimes. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. That is where we're going to end it. I want to encourage you on your way out to give a like and subscribe if you haven't yet already, as well as remind you that there is still very few I Love Canadian gas and oil stickers available down in the description or the pinned comment below. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video. If you want to support the channel financially, you can do so by checking out the merch shop linked right up there. Or if you want to do something for free, which is also absolutely acceptable and highly encouraged, you can subscribe right there. If you want to continue watching videos like this, you can do so by clicking or tapping right there to watch the next upcoming video. And if you want to watch a little bit of different content, but also Canadian stuff, you can do so by clicking right up there. That's my second channel, House of Canada, also known as the House of Commons Highlights. Thanks so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.